Welcome, everybody, to the Redzone Report right here on the Built in Buffalo YouTube, Facebook, and X channels. I'm your host, Izzy, and we are here to talk about the Buffalo Bills 2025 season. This is my record prediction, so let's talk about it. Welcome, everybody. Of course, I'm your host, Izzy, right here, Redzone Report, live on Sunday, July 13th, right here for training camp to begin, I believe, in a couple of weeks, maybe a week and a half. And the season is that much closer. Training camp starts, preseason starts here soon in August. We get a few, glimpses here and there when we get to go to St. John Fisher. If you get to go, if you were lucky enough to win the lottery or the raffle or whatever they call it, to get tickets to it, man, it's going to be a good time. But first things first, in the comments, my man Jacob Spears, we love you, Izzy. I love you too, man. That's my buddy right there. Got to get a hold of you on the phone sometime when we're both not busy, because that's crazy. But it is what it is. Guys, thank you for being here. Jacob, Sandra, always in the building. My man Kim, always in the building. Let's go Bills. Good evening. Kevin from X, welcome to the show. We are here to talk about the Buffalo Bills record I think that they're going to have this year. I see I made a typo in the freaking in the whatchamacallit, the name of the show, but it's okay. We'll go back and fix that later. Guys, the Bills season is going to be wild. Right? It's going to be a wild ride. You know, the Buffalo Bills play the Ravens week 1. That's going to be crazy. You know, because the Ravens are not usually very good week 1, but the Bills are kind of iffy week 1 most of the time. Most of the time, the Bills are very kind of sketchy week 1. And so, with that being said, that game is kind of a toss-up, right? So the Bills could be 0-1 after week 1. I don't think they will be, but I know that the Ravens, generally speaking, they don't do so good week 1, and we're kind of back and forth week 1. I mean, in our first, 4 weeks of the season, Ravens, Jets, Dolphins, Saints, we should be 3-1 or 4-0 after that first quarter of the season. You know, we got Lamar Jackson coming into town with Derrick Henry. Last year, they smoked us in the regular season, but we got to get back in the playoffs. And that could be the same thing that happens this year. Like, we do that to the Chiefs every year. We beat them in the regular season. They come back and they beat us in the playoffs, even by a close margin. Doesn't matter. But I'm telling you now that week 1 game against the Ravens could be our first loss, but I don't think so, right? So I think the Bills will win week 1 against Baltimore. Close game, probably. I think that our run defense should be improved with a lot of the additions that we made between TJ Sanders coming in to be a rotational pick instead of, the guys we had last year. Also, Dwayne Carter, another year removed from being drafted. Ed Oliver should be healthy. And Daquan Jones, 1 more year removed from the chest injury, the pectoral. Last year, I think that he struggled through that because defensive tackles don't really necessarily age fast. You see a lot of defensive tackles play later into their, careers. Calais Campbell, for example, is 39. He had like 9.5 sacks last year with the Dolphins or something like that. I'm actually probably short on what he had last year. He probably had more than that. He went off last year on a team that he just got to. He just started destroying people. I mean, he didn't do so good against the Bills, but our offensive line is probably top 3 in the NFL right now. Eagles, Lions, Bills, probably the top 3 offensive lines in the NFL right now. And so, statistically speaking, for him to do what he did on the Dolphins defensive line, which was ass last year, like he just went off. Let's see where he was ranked. Sacks. Zach Sealer, 10. Where are you, 𝐃𝐨𝐬𝐧'𝐭? Ah. Oh well, can't see his stat numbers, but it doesn't matter. A lot of the defensive tackles in the NFL end up playing longer and being able to put up sack totals. But when you get to that 35, 36 age, you end up, in the free agent market and usually end up being one of those guys who gets picked up by a team later in the season after injuries. So, yeah. But I think TJ Sanders will hold out. I don't think he's going to hold out. I think that he's eventually going to get signed. Second round pick, good player coming out of college. My buddy did not know that we drafted him. He, he's not a Bills fan, but he does pull for us from time to time. And he was looking at the draft, and he just, I guess, missed that we draft TJ Sanders. And when I told him that TJ Sanders is going to be a good addition to this defensive line, he's like, from South Carolina? He's like, yeah. He's like, you guys got him? And I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, snap. Okay. I didn't know that. I was like, yeah. So the defensive line in Buffalo should be much better than it was last year. And I'm here for it, Like, I'm here for us being able to stop the run. I'm here for us not being, 23rd in the NFL in run defense, which was sad to watch. It was pretty rough. I was very unhappy with it. But, sometimes you have to deal with the crap before you can really get back to where you used to be. Because the Buffalo Bills, for the first 4 years of Josh Allen, was a top 5 defense. And I took a little dip, and I was taking another little dip. But you get the right players in here, I think that this defense could be nasty. But yeah, week 1, Baltimore Ravens. I think the Buffalo Bills win that game. And the next 3 games, pretty sure we win. The first challenge to me in the season is going to be week 5 against New England, right? New England isn't on our level at this time, but they have improved, right? I think that they have a young team that's going to be working with a lot of confidence. The Patriots have a damn good head coach now too. Vrabel is not a joke head coach. I mean, he was with the Titans. They were trash before he got there, and he took them to the number 1 seed, and he took them in the playoffs a few times, and they beat Baltimore in the playoffs. Right? They beat Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. After that, they fired him, I think, very prematurely, because I think that, he was building something special potentially in Tennessee. He also had a GM that did some of the stupidest crap I've ever seen in trading A.J. Brown to the Eagles, who have now beat everybody in the NFL over the head with him because of how good that guy is. And they drafted Treylon Burks. Just so dumb. and because of that, they ended up having a meltdown. Then they fired Vrabel, and I think it's pretty evident that Vrabel was not the issue there. I don't think he was the issue there at all. See, Bobby Hall's back in the building. What up, and fam? Hey, what's up, Bobby? Welcome back. Daniel Garies. Hey, what's up, man? Tommy Pickles. Love the name, man. Rugrats, baby. See, I can see us losing a close match, Ravens, but go on a run. Yeah, the next, was it 5 games? After that are all pretty winnable. We should win all of those games. We should be 6-0 going into the bye. Bye is week 7. It's an early bye, but it's actually really timely for the Bills. Really timely, right? So let's say we go through Baltimore, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Saints, the Patriots, and the Falcons with 1 loss, right? Either to the Patriots or to the Ravens. More likely to the Ravens, but the Patriots are kind of sneaky this year. We go into the bye week 5-1 or 6-0. Week 7 bye, we know what's going to happen then. Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi come off their suspensions, and the Bills are going to have decisions to make. Luckily, they have a bye week because those two players are suspended for 6 weeks. So the first 6 games and then the bye, you have time to make whatever big decisions you can. You know what I'm saying? Like, after that, you have evaluated your guys for 6 games. You have the opportunity then to cut and or trade some players away, maybe for some draft capital, even if, you're sending AJ Epinesa to Seattle Seahawks for a 5th or something like that. At that point in time, you're just happy to not be cutting somebody and just not getting anything in return. You're happy to be getting something back for some guys who you don't have room for anymore because you're bringing people off suspension. You may look at defensive tackle. Maybe somebody got hurt. All of a sudden, boom, Larry Ogunjobi's back in the fold, and you have a refilled defensive tackle room. Also, those guys are becoming 6 weeks in. They'll be fresh bodies. They're not going to be guys who've been beaten up over 6 weeks. So you have guys who are coming in to be fresh. There's a lot that could happen between week 1 and week 7, and you have some guys who are going to be ready to make a comeback at that point in time. My man Jacob comes in and says, is AJ Epinesa a trade candidate? He absolutely is. If we cut him, big dead cap hit. If we trade him, we save a bunch of money by switching to 𝐬𝐽. So, yeah, he's absolutely a trade candidate. I like AJ Epinesa. I like him for what he is. He's a 30 to 40% of the snaps kind of guy. He gets you 6 sacks every year. He's done it 3 years in a row. I like what he brings. And last year, he looked better against the run, right? So he's improving in some of his weak points, right? And the guy who comes out of college like him, who was 286 in college, now he's, 260, 265. In college, he was excellent against the run, but the NFL is just not as much, not much gas there. But he's also smaller. So that could be something that he doesn't have the weight that he used to have to be able to push people around. And now he's more of a sack guy, which is fine with me. He gets good pressure on quarterbacks. He gets 6.5 sacks a year. I like him for who he is, and I think that he has value somewhere in the NFL, including on the Bills. But somebody may want to bring in a situational pass rusher like him and compensate the Bills for it. And we just drafted Javon Solomon this past year. So it's a very, very good chance that if no one gets hurt, AJ Epinesa is moved via trade. I think so. Bro, we got to beat Pats because old diva-ass Diggs has vowed to smoke us. Hey, man, I'm not worried about Stephon Diggs. I'm just not. I wish I was, but I'm not. We got this. Yeah, we do. We do got this. That was a perfect comment after that. Stephon Diggs can say whatever he wants. As long as he stays off the boat, I think he's okay. But, yeah, that guy. But looking at the first 6 games, I think the Bills lose 1. Patriots or Baltimore. And at that point, we are 5-1. Next game is the Carolina Panthers week 8. We have yet to lose coming off of a bye, which is why I'm just waiting for us to get the number one overall seed in the AFC so we can have a bye and then we can just smoke somebody in the AFC. And then, whatever happens in the championship game happens in the championship game. We need that. So the Panthers, I think we beat them. The next game is week 9. The Kansas City Chiefs, who I really didn't think too highly of their offseason. Their offensive line is kind of cheeks. The Eagles exposed that. The Buffalo Bills then said, you know what? We're going to go ahead and invest heavily in it. They went and got Deion Walker, who I'm not huge on, but he's pretty huge. So that's a guy who can come in here and do some potential wonders. We were just talking about this defensive line and edge rushers. We didn't mention Joey Bosa. He knows the Chiefs pretty well. And then Greg Rousseau coming off the edge. He's intercepted Patrick Mahomes. So if he can keep his instincts up and not be hurt, that'd be great. The Bills invested in the defensive line heavily this offseason because the Eagles showed us exactly how you take out the Chiefs. And so with that being said, I think that the Bills will beat the Chiefs. At that point, the Bills will be 7-1. Next game is the Dolphins. The Dolphins are going to be god awful this year. They've had a fire sale on talent. They got rid of Jalen Ramsey, brought back Minkah Fitzpatrick. We've shredded him a bunch of times while he was with Pittsburgh. And I think the Dolphins are really on that same tip as the Giants, where they're basically just waiting to fire their head coach and GM. The Dolphins are a dumpster fire. And so, yeah, Looking at some of your comments after week 10, 9-1. But going back to some of your comments here. Let's see. Our Diggs is going to say night Diggs. Yep. You ready to go night Diggs? Yeah, buddy. But my boy Bobby Hall comes in. To be honest, I believe Josh is on a different vibe. If he continues or even gets better than last year, folks are in trouble. They're already in trouble because as good as he was last year, if he gets better, it's a rough one. See, do you think Max Hairston will be CB2? I think that he is CB2 right now, and I think that it's his job to lose. He was drafted in the first round for a reason, but you also brought back Tre'Davious White for a reason, just in case that guy you brought back or you signed in the first round, drafted in the first round, doesn't pan out in his first year. You still have a guy who can compete. Oof. Lord have mercy. I think Max Hairston is the CB2 as of right now. His job to lose. I think that as mandatory minicamp and OTAs went on, he improved over the time, and they said that a lot. So I think that Max Hairston is going to earn CB2, but I already think he's penciled in there. So do with that what you will. And Bobby Hall says, yes, sir. You know it, man. Come on. See, I think Miami regresses this season. Last year for McDaniel, possibly Tua as well. Well, you got to think about it. Tyreek Hill's another year older, right? They lost Raheem Mostert, who was really their ground guy. Waddle's hurt often enough to where it's concerning. It's kind of sad that he gets hurt as much as he does. And then Tua also hurt all the time. They do have Zach Wilson to back him up, and they drafted Quinn Ewers, which I like Quinn Ewers, but he takes too long to make decisions throwing the ball. He holds the ball too long. If you look at their running back room, Devon Achane, Jalen Wright. I like Jalen Wright. He's a pretty quick running back. They also brought in Alexander Madison. He's a good second back, but who's your one back? Who's RB1? Devon Achane. He's like 180 pounds. I don't see Devon Achane being able to carry that load. And so they did draft Ollie Gordon out of Oklahoma State, I believe. Ollie Gordon II. Oklahoma State, yep. And he's a good, 6'1", 226. So if they want him to pound the rock, first and second down, sure, but it's gonna be a rough one. I think that they regress quite a bit. Also, their slot receiver is Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. I don't see a lot, from that guy. So we can do with that what we will. Darren Waller's their tight end, by the way. Like I said, they had a fire sale, and Jonnu Smith had to go. Just awful. That O-line, too. Like, who do we know from that O-line? Aaron Brewer, maybe, Jonah Savai, and Austin Jackson. Nothing to write home about. The Dolphins don't worry me at all, so we'll deal with that. So Trey White is good for leadership and in the locker room. He is good for those two things, and in a pinch, if something happens, he can play. He knows the system. He can play. If athleticism has left the building for Trey White, knowing the system has not. So, yeah. See, I think Trey is current CB2, but Hairston gets every opportunity to earn the job. That could be the case, too. Like, I could be wrong about my thought process, but I think that Maxwell Hairston's already probably penciled in. So the Dolphins don't have a proven cornerback. And you know what? You are correct about that, too, because if I go down to defense, their starting corners are Storm Duck and Jason Marshall Jr. And their nickelback is 𝐾 who gets cooked by the Bills every year. Every year. Safety, they got Minkah, which is awesome. He's damn good safety, but he's got no corners. He can't be safety help to both sides of the field. It's just he can't. It's impossible. What's my opinion about Hairston being sued? I'd rather not say an opinion about that because it could come off as throwing him under the bus or victim blaming, or like if I say something positive about him, it looks bad on the other person. If I say something, so I'd rather keep this one to myself because I'll save it for when it's over. How about that? When it's over and all the facts are out there, I try not to formulate opinions prior to that. Like it's a bad idea to sit there and decide prematurely what did or didn't happen, and so I'll leave that one be. Yeah, Storm Duck. What a name. What does this guy look like? He doesn't look like his name. I'll tell you that much. He doesn't look like his name should be Duck. He doesn't look like a duck farmer from Louisiana. So there's that. Now, looking at the rest of their room here, linebackers, they got Tyrell Dodson, so that's nice. They have Bradley Chubb on one side as a pass rusher at linebacker, Jalen Phillips at the other side at linebacker as a pass rusher. Jordan Brooks, solid guy. Behind them, Willie Gay and KJ Britt. So their linebacker room is solid. I give them that. Their defensive line, Kenneth Grant, awesome pick out of Michigan. I know a lot of Bills fans really wanted Kenneth Grant. Benito Jones at nose tackle. I'm not really sure who that is. They also have Jordan Phillips on the squad. Big Jordan Phillips back as a Dolphin. Who'd have thought? And then Zach Sealer at the other defensive end spot from Kenneth Grant. So that defensive line looks solid. I don't know much about Benito Jones, but he probably should start ahead of Jordan Phillips. He's 27 years old, 6'1", 335 out of Ole Miss. No sacks last year, so we'll see what happens there. See, nothing just after his coins. It could be that. And that's what I don't want to say that because then Izzy doesn't believe the victim. But then if I say, he did something, then Izzy doesn't love the Bills. Or I stay out of that stuff until I get all the facts. Once I have all the facts, I form my opinion. See, now they have Duck on one side and Waddle on the other side. That's pretty funny. Well done, John. Well done. But yeah, the Dolphins don't scare me at all. 8-1 after week 10. Then we have Tampa Bay. That's a tough out. Now, it's Tampa Bay coming to Buffalo in November. I'm taking the win there. 9-1. Then we see Houston week 12. Okay. We're starting to get to we're in the beginning phase of the second half of the season here, right? So the first half of the season is Chiefs, Panthers, Falcons, Patriots, Saints, Dolphins, Jets, Ravens, in reverse order, obviously. And then the second half is the Dolphins and the Bucks. I think we win those two games. We end up 9-1. And then we have 7 games left. And the Houston Texans at Houston is a tough one. Prime Video, so it's a Thursday game. Short week for the Bills. I'm not sure when Houston's bye week is, but not really we're that worried about it. I think that we could drop this game, but it's really going to depend on health of both teams. And I think with the Bills getting healthier, man, DeMeco Ryans really last year he really did a number on Josh. Josh did not have a good game last year against Houston. It was pretty miserable. With that being said, I think the Bills should win that game, but DeMeco Ryans just knows how to shut Josh down. But if our weapons improve, I'm going to go ahead and put this one as a loss for the Bills. At this point in time, the Bills are now 9-2. The Texans are a tough out for us. They play us well. They do. And then they have the running backs. Their running backs were pretty good against the Bills. Uh, forget who the woman beating running back that they have is. What's his name? Played for the Bengals for so long, and now he's a Texan. And he played at Oklahoma. I remember all this stuff about him, but Joe Mixon. There we go. They got Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb and Damian Pierce. Their running back room is really good, actually. Holy shoot. Okay. Then wide receivers, Tank Dell. We'll see what happens with that guy because he got hurt really late in the season. But they still got Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, John Mechie III. They just drafted Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins, who I wanted for the Bills. Jaden Higgins is a guy I really, 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 really wanted on the Bills, but Houston went and snatched him up, and yeah, I think we'll drop this game to the Texans. So 9-2 going into Pittsburgh. I don't know. I'm not really that impressed with the Steelers offseason. They have a disgruntled defensive end or linebacker, edge rusher, whatever you call them in Pittsburgh. I think they're a 3-4 defense, so it's a defensive end. And TJ Watt having his trouble. Aaron Rodgers is their quarterback. He could be really good, but if he shits the bed, sorry, for the language, if he shits the bed, Mason Rudolph's there. Mason Rudolph is a solid backup quarterback in the NFL. Mason Rudolph is your prototypical backup quarterback in the NFL. They also drafted Will Howard out of Ohio State late in the draft. Running backs Jalen Warren and Caleb Johnson, Kenneth Gainwell look pretty good. Wide receiver DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin III, and Bobby Trees. Robert Woods is a Steeler. Good slot receiver. Excuse me, guys. I had dinner not too shortly before the show, and it's talking back. They also drafted Roman Wilson. They have Scotty Miller and Ben Skowronek. So they have a solid receiver room. I wouldn't write home about it, but, Aaron Rodgers could maybe do something with some of that. We'll see. Offensive line, Broderick Jones, Isaac Seumalo, Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, and Troy Fautun. They have a solid offensive line. I think their O-line is going to be much improved from last year, which Aaron Rodgers will benefit from. See, defensive ends, Derek Harmon out of Oregon they just drafted, Keanu Benton, and Cam Hayward. He's been there for a long time. Really, really good player. All-Pro, Pro Bowler. TJ Watt coming back off that injury. Patrick Queen on the inside along with Peyton Wilson. Peyton Wilson as a rookie was solid. The Steelers were pretty good by drafting him last year. And Alex Highsmith at the other edge rusher spot from TJ Watt. Their defensive front seven is pretty damn good. At corner, they went and got older, though. They got Darius Slay, which, he still has something in the tank, but he's definitely gotten older. Let's see. Jalen Ramsey, they have on ESPN's website as a nickel. I don't know how that's going to work, but if Jalen Ramsey is their nickel, and if he can play nickel, holy shoot, that's a tough defense right there. Wow, okay. Safety, Deshaun Elliott and Juan Thornhill, who we remember him from the Chiefs. Miles Killebrew at safety, and Quindale Johnson, Sebastian Castro. Don't know who any of those guys are, but those guys are depth guys. Steelers could be a tough out, but I think the Bills still beat them. I don't think it's as hard a game as I'm making it out to be, but they have some damn good players there. I mean, they could win that division if they can get right on the Ravens. They could win that division, but I still have Baltimore winning that division. I think the Bills beat them. Now we're at 10-2. Cincinnati Bengals, man. They've given us hell the last few years, haven't they? The Cincinnati Bengals have just been an Achilles heel for the Buffalo Bills. They just come out there and they beat us, and we have yet to beat them in the last 4 years. So the Bengals are a tough out for us, but their defense is absolute trash now. Absolute trash on defense. Offense is really good, but their defense is horrible. Let's see what I can muster up about them and their roster. They have Burrow, Chase, and Brown, obviously. T. Higgins and Andre Yoshivas, who again, a couple years ago, coming out of Princeton, I really wanted him on the Bills. Mike Gesicki is another pass catcher. He's not really good at blocking, so the fact that Chase Brown did as well as he did last year, testament to how good he is. Left tackle, Orlando Brown. Left guard, Cordell Volson. Don't know who that is. Ted Karras at center. Cody Ford at starting right guard right now. Penciled in at starting right guard. Cody Ford. Everybody, we all remember him, don't we? And then right tackle, Amarius Mims. I'm surprised. Dude, the fact that Cody Ford is still in the NFL, good for you, Cody. Good for you. It's tough. Man, Kenneth Jackson, Steelers aren't making the playoffs this year. Their offense is going to be worse this year. Defense may carry them above 500. I don't know, man. That bad offense or not, the freaking Mike Tomlin is just good at willing his team to the playoffs like every year. You know, it's tough. See, Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, Browns. I don't know how you got the Bengals over the Steelers. The Bengals have no defense. They're gonna have to win every game, 56 to 40, 47. Like, they're gonna have to really like just put up points, and they do put up points, but sheesh. And Sandra King, she agrees with that. So if you guys are right, I won't carry the way. It's not my division, but I don't know. But yeah, they got Cody Ford and Zach Moss on the same team. That's crazy. That's crazy. But they do have some solid backups in some spots, like Jermaine Burton at wide receiver. In case something happens to Chase or T. Higgins, Jermaine Burton out of Alabama from last year, pretty solid player, right? They have a little bit of depth, not a lot, but Taj Brooks at running back. Dog's going crazy. My son walks in the room. Anyways, yeah, you're in my shop. Yep, doing the show over here, sweetheart. You got to go in front of the computer.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Oh.
My son and his girlfriend. All right. But back to the predictions here. I got the Bills beating the Bengals. I don't think that's going to last. The Bills beat the Bengals, and they end up, what is it, 11-2? 11-2 at the Patriots. I think we beat the Patriots. I think we sweep the Patriots. I think our first loss is week 1 to the Ravens. We beat the Patriots twice. Then the Browns, we beat them. There's no point even talking about the Browns, but we will anyway. You know why? Because I do this. We'll talk about the Patriots too. I didn't even talk about them the first time like that, just that they improved. And I'm sure talking about their roster will really round that out. Drake May last year played way better than any of us could have predicted. They still have Ramondre Stevenson, and they drafted Travion Henderson out of Ohio State, who is an outstanding. Is he from Ohio State, or was he the guy from Tennessee? I might be mixing my players up here. Ohio State. Yep, I was right. Travion Henderson out of Ohio State. He and Judkins were nasty last year for Ohio State. Like, Travion Henderson was thought to be potentially our, how you say this, he was thinking about transferring, I guess, but then he decided not to because he was a team player, and then they went and they won the national championship this year because Travion Henderson is so loyal and so selfless. So they drafted a guy like Travion Henderson with them skills and is that selfless. My gosh, like, that is one of the nastiest compliments you could have gotten to your running back room. He'll probably be RB1 by the time we see them the second time around. Then at wide receiver, they have Stephon Diggs, Pop Douglas, Mac Hollins as their starting 3, apparently. Kyle Williams is in the background there, along with Keyshawn Boutte and Kendrick Bourne. So they have a solid receiver room. Also, 𝐬𝐮 Polk is on the team, so there's gonna be some talent from that team. Javon Baker is on that team. A lot of guys wanted him from Central Florida, UCF. So there's a lot of talent on that in that receiving room. Just a lot of it is unproven, and so some of those guys are going to get released. And don't be surprised if teams like Miami or the Jets, maybe even the Bills, but I doubt the Bills, go after some of that talent because that talent is there. That's young. Hey, buddy. All right. And then at tight end, Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper is a solid duo. And then they drafted, was it Jaheim Bell? I think it was a draft pick. The Patriots got a solid roster here. Drafted Will Campbell. They got Cole Strange moving from center to guard. They brought in Garrett Bradbury, Mike Onwenu, and Morgan Moses. So yeah, they went and they made some moves. Now on the offensive line, bringing Morgan Moses, he's a little older, but you want to have some level of experience in your offensive line room. You don't want just a bunch of young dudes. You want to have somebody in there who's a little older and who can help school up these young men, right? Because you got a bunch of young men. And Garrett Bradbury is another guy who can help school them up. And Cole Strange, I guess, didn't work as their center, so they moved him to guard. We'll see how that works out for him. But then on defense, they brought in Milton Williams from the Eagles, right? He was a dog on that Eagles defensive line going after Patrick Mahomes. They got, Chris Tonga at nose tackle. I don't know really who that is, but Christian Barmore's still there. Freaking Harold Landry the third, Christian Ellis, Robert Spillane coming from the Raiders, solid pickup. He's a guy that Antonio Pierce wanted to be his centerpiece in his defense. Well, Antonio Pierce is no longer the Raiders head coach, so he's now no longer a Raider either. He's on the Patriots. Anthony Jennings, Carlton Davis the third is a Patriot now. Kyle Duggar and Jabril Pepper still there. Solid safeties. Christian Gonzalez, an elite young corner coming off injury. I'm telling you right now, they're going to be better than a lot of people thought they'd be. They're probably going to be a 10-win team, I'd say, the Patriots. Man can't sleep on the Browns. I'll sleep on the Browns all day. Shoot. So they're like that neighborhood kid that always got whooped, grew up, and starts to give ass whoopings. We'll see, but they don't even know who their quarterback is, Doug Ogg, anytime a franchise has 5 QBs, they're definitely a dumpster fire. The Pats have been drafting very well the last couple of drafts, in my opinion. Mine too. I mean, if you look at their wide receiver room, Pop Douglas, Stephon Diggs, and Matt Collins are their 3 starters, right? Behind them, they drafted Kyle Williams, Kayshon Boutte from LSU. They have Kendrick Bourne still on the roster. He probably doesn't make it with all the talent they have behind him because you have 𝐬𝐮 Polk and Javon Baker. Like the Patriots, they've drafted some receivers. They got some trouble brewing. They also have 2 running backs named TreVeyon Henderson and Trevion Williams. So do with that what you will. I don't know if that matters, but the Patriots are a thing. But I think we sweep them. We know them too well. But you never know. I think we beat them. We're at 12-2. We see the Browns. We're gonna pound them into mincemeat. But just to humor ourselves, we'll go ahead and take a look at their roster. Right, Cleveland Browns. We know that they have a 4-headed monster at quarterback, which is never a good thing. They have Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders. So if you don't count Deshaun Watson, who I don't know why they even have him here, he's not playing this year because his knee's shredded. So you might as well just put him over on injured reserve, put Flacco at number 1, Pickett at 2, Dylan Gabriel at 3, and Shedeur at 4th, and the battle begins in training camp. So we'll see what happens. Running back, I like Jerome Ford, but Quinshon Judkins is probably going to overtake him before we know it. Dylan Sampson, another good running back. And did they draft him this year too? I'm pretty sure he was on Tennessee. Yep. He's a rookie out of Tennessee. They drafted 2 running backs in this draft. Bravo Cleveland for doing that because they lost Nick Chubb. And then they also still have Pierre Strong Jr. So they have a solid running back room. Wide receivers, Cedric Tillman, Jerry Jeudy, and Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson, is he the one who played for us? Tiny guy, returner? No, I don't think so. No, that's the guy who played for the Steelers, and then he's been all over the place. Yeah, nope. Behind them, David Bell, Jamari Thrash, who I like Jamari Thrash coming out, and Michael Woods II. Not sure who he is. Their receiver room is kind of mid to me. The first 3 guys are solid: Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, and Deontay Johnson. And then David Njoku at tight end is nice, but he's had some injuries. Having Harold Fannin behind him, I'm not really concerned if something happens to Njoku that Harold Fannin is going to be able to fill in very well. But their offensive line looks solid. DeJuan Jones, Joel Bitonio, Ethan Pocic, Wyatt Teller is awesome. We all, as Bills fans, know that he's awesome. But yeah. See, Patriots are still rebuilding. They are still rebuilding, but you can still get some wins when rebuilding. Deontay Hardy. There you go. Thanks, Doug. I knew we had a Deontay. I'm terrible with names. Unless you're here for a couple years, I'm going to forget your name. AFC East standings: 1 Bills, 2 Jets, very slept on, 3 Patriots, 4 Dolphins. Look, the Patriots and the Jets are going to be fighting for that number 2 spot in the division, potentially a playoff spot. And the reason why I don't disagree with your comment here, Ken, is because the coaches. I have it Bills, Pats, Jets, Dolphins, with the Pats and the Jets being separated by 1 or game or 2. And I agree that both teams are rebuilding. I see your comment, John Roberts. But the Jets have more talent, but the Patriots have more proven a head coach. Also, both those coaches are defensive guys. So Josh McDaniels being back in New England, being as good an offensive coordinator as he is, I have more faith in him than Aaron Glenn's offensive coordinator. So I read Judkins was arrested. I hope not. I hate seeing these young guys get drafted and all of a sudden they get arrested. They start, growing a pair of gangster nuts. Cut it out. Go home. You're a millionaire now. Take care of your craft and your family. Like, stop this nonsense, right? It's unnecessary. Going out and getting arrested for what? Like, for what? I hope he didn't. But if he did, did it to yourself, buddy. See, Jets over Patriots because I think the Patriots are paper warriors right now. They're going to need at least 1 year to build culture and chemistry. Too many different personalities and moving pieces happening at once. I don't know about that. Like, bringing in Josh McDaniels again, he's been there before, and then he knows the Patriot way. Also, you have Vrabel, who knows the Patriot way and was a damn good head coach. I don't know. I think the coaching is going to be different. Also, trying to reverse in New Jersey with the Jets. Reversing the BS that Saleh brought it might be some work. It might be some work. See, do you think Fields will get them over the hump? No, I don't. I think Fields is entertaining to watch, but I don't know if he's good enough. We'll see what happens. I mean, he's gonna have some coaching there, I guess. I don't remember who did the Jets bring in as their head coach. Who did they even bring in as their head coach? NFL, New York Jets. Guess I have to go to their team page and freaking mess up my cookies having Jets website on my browser history. Thanks, guys. Team coaches. Aaron Glenn, head coach. Special teams coordinator, Chris Banjo. Offensive coordinator, Tanner Engstrand. Defensive coordinator, Steve Wilkes. Wow, okay. All right. Let's see where their OC came from. San Diego State University. Jets head coach Aaron Glenn returns to Motor City. Blah 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 blah. Passing game coordinator Tanner Engstrand to be his offensive play caller. Okay. So this guy was the passing game coordinator for the Lions. We'll see what happens there. Again, still not impressed with that. We'll see what happens. So Judkins was arrested for domestic violence. Yikes. It's never a good one, but, some guys have come back from that one and some guys have not. Like Ray Rice didn't. But, oh boy, who's a Texan, formerly of the Bengals, he did. So, we'll see. Jets head coach Aaron Glenn from Detroit. Yeah, so the head coach is from Detroit. He's a defensive guy, though. He played corner for the Jets back in NFL days. But his offensive coordinator is the former passing game coordinator for the Lions. So while they had an offensive coordinator in Ben Johnson, who's now the head coach of the Bears, he had a passing game coordinator who is now the offensive coordinator of the Jets. So the Jets have to hope that Glenn knows how to develop a QB. He doesn't have to. He needs his coordinator to do that. Like when I look at the Bills, I don't see Sean McDermott as the guy who developed Josh Allen. I see Brian Dable as the guy who developed Josh Allen, along with Ken Dorsey as a QB coach. Now, I'll say as an offensive coordinator, Dorsey's trash. But as a QB coach, solid. Dable, as an offensive coordinator, pretty damn good. As a head coach, well, we see what we see. It is what it is. Now the Browns, back to those Browns. Solid O-line, solid weapons, but nothing really to write home about. Defensive is where it's at. Myles Garrett, Malik Collins, Mason Graham. Off the bat, just nasty defensive line. Isaiah McGuire, don't know too much about him, but they do have Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, who I believe was a Buccaneer first. Now he's a Brown. They just drafted linebacker 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭 from Cal. Was it Cal or UCLA? The middle linebacker, Jordan Hicks, solid middle linebacker. Mohamoud Diabate, I don't know much about him, but they also have Devin Bush, Jerome Baker, and Winston Reed on the roster, so they have good depth there. Denzel Ward at corner, along with Martin Emerson Jr., who was recent draft pick, along with Greg Newsome, the third at nickelback. Solid nickel. Grant Delpit and Ronnie Hickman at safety. Their defense is pretty solid all the way around. I have no qualms with the Browns' defense, but their offense is absolute just average at weapons. Pretty good at offensive line, and the quarterback room is just a freaking mess. It's a mess. They really need to get that sorted out as soon as possible because you don't want to have guys taking or splitting QB1 reps all the way through the preseason. That's a spell for disaster. Probably get Stefanski fired. And Stefanski, I think, is actually a solid head coach. He's just on this freaking stupid-ass organization that doesn't know how to pick up talent. Other than that, I think Stefanski's a good head coach. He's a good offensive mind. Here's the thing. All right, guys? Just take this for what it's worth. None of us really think Joe Brady's going to be here past this year. Right? None of us really think that. He's probably gone after this year. He's probably going to get a head coaching job. He's been offered stuff. We all know that that's probably what's going to happen. He's probably going to be a head coach next year somewhere. If Stefanski's fired after this dumpster fire every year the Browns are going to have, he's an OC candidate. He's a candidate to be an OC. Because when they get fired, they usually don't get another head coaching job for years. He's a good offensive mind. Very good offensive mind. Stefanski's a guy who I believe you could bring in as a offensive coordinator. Gotta sneeze. Oh, Lord. That was good. Stefanski's a guy that I can see the Bills bringing in if Joe Brady leaves via head coaching job. So do with that what you will. But the Bills beat the Browns. And move on to 14-2. We see the Eagles. I think we drop it to the Eagles. I think that the Eagles are going to be a team that is going to be nasty again this year. They did lose some talent, so before I make that my final answer, I know that they got richer in the draft too because we let them get 𝐬𝐻𝐫𝐞. Golly, Jalen Hurts at quarterback, solid. Nothing to write home about, but he's definitely solid. He's better than most people give him credit for, but he's not as good as Eagles fans give him credit for. But he won a Super Bowl, and he's been to 2. So do with that information what you will. Saquon Barkley, Will Shipley, A.J. Dillon, probably the best running back room in the NFL. Then you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jahan Dotson, Johnny Wilson, Terrence Marshall Jr., and Aeneas Smith, possibly one of the best wide receiver rooms in the NFL. Then at the offensive line, if you include Dallas Goedert and Grant Calcaterra at tight end with the weapons still, Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Tyler Steen, and Lane Johnson. They have one of the best, if not the best, offensive lines in football. Just nasty offensive line. Nasty offensive line. You look at their defense now. Moro Ojomo, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. That defensive line is nasty. They did lose the Williams to the Patriots. Right? They lost him to the Patriots, Milton Williams. But Moro Ojomo they drafted for a reason. So, good player. Linebackers, Nolan Smith Jr., Zach Bond, they got from New Orleans last year, and he just came in and he wreaked havoc, just wrecked shop on everybody. Like, no one saw Zach Bond coming, but, good for him because he was nasty. And then Nakobe Dean coming back. Then they drafted Jihad Campbell, and they have Jeremiah Trotter Jr. And a guy I liked coming out, Smael Mondon Jr. Crazy linebacker room. Then you look at their corners. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Kelee Ringo. And then their safeties, Reed Blankenship and Andrew Makuba. Like, they have Sidney Brown and Tristan McCollum behind those guys, along with Lewis Seen. Like, the Eagles are going to be nasty. They're going to be nasty. We lose that game to the Eagles, right? We're now 13-3. We got one more game to the Jets. If we're 13-3, we might be sitting our starters. So we'll see. The Bills may promote the QB coach if Stefanski isn't fired. That's a very good possibility. I could see that. Our last game is against the Jets, and it really depends on the conference, like who's doing what and where. See, our coaches, Joe Brady, Chris Tabor, our quarterback coach, Ronald Curry. I don't know if I see him getting the promotion there. I would see the Bills probably going out of the building for a offensive coordinator if he goes. Maybe Cromer is more likely, or Mark Lubick, the passing game specialist. But the quarterback coach, Ronald Curry, I'm not sure. I have to look at his resume real quick. See, name Bills quarterback coach, joined the Bills roster, last season coaching in different offensive capacities for the Saints roster. Curry brings 11 years of NFL coaching experience. It might be time for Ronald Curry to get a spot as an offensive coordinator. I just don't know if it's here. Yeah, I'd prefer someone like Stefanski. See, if we go 13-2 by the time we play the Eagles, I see us sitting starters for the last 2 games. I don't know, man. That really does depend on the Chiefs record, the Ravens record. Like, if we're 13-2 and they're also 13-2, we're not sitting nobody. You're only sitting people if you have your spot locked up. Now, if there's no chance that we can get the 1 seed, who cares if we're the 2 or 3 seed? Doesn't matter. See, Eagles D line is awesome. Eagles offensive and defensive lines both nasty. See, does the Bills hire Joe Brady head coach? No. Sean McDermott is going nowhere. I don't know where people keep getting this. See, we might keep players in Week 18, last regular season of the stadium. I don't think that has anything to do with it, but I wouldn't be mad at it. But you also don't want to sit players and then no one shows up to the last game in the stadium. But at the same time, like, who cares? You know? Like, if no one shows up to the last game in that stadium, like, who cares? I don't care. But I would like to beat the Jets in our last game in that stadium. That would be nice. But I don't think that there's anything assuring us that we're gonna be able to sit guys the last 2 weeks. That's wild. See, that would risk injury, and that's our biggest downfall every year going into the playoffs. I see us resting and giving our players time to heal. I could see some starters, but all starters, I don't think so. Like, I could see them sitting Matt Milano and letting Dorian Williams play, right? Because Dorian Williams, if Matt Milano's healthy all year, Dorian's not going to see the field a ton, right? You could also sit Terrell Bernard and play Ulofoshio or Shaq Thompson. You can let those guys get some shine at that point in time, right? We have some depth now. You could sit, what's his name, Christian Benford, and let Dorian Strong get some shine. Let him get in there, or Tre'Davious White. But sitting everybody, I don't see that. If you got some guys who are banged up and they're not so injured that they can't play, but you can afford to let them sit, you let them sit. But that to me would be wild. But the Eagles, I have us losing that one again, 13-3. We played the Jets last game of the season in Buffalo. I think we beat them. We end up 14-3. Buffalo Bills with a nice little cushion there. Sit Taron Johnson. I agree with that. We drafted that boy Hancock out of Ohio State for a reason. And so you can sit Taron Johnson. Sit the guys who have historically been injured, Sit Daquan Jones. Sit Matt Milano. Sit Terrell Bernard. Sit Taron Johnson. Sit James Cook. Shit. Like, we don't need him getting hurt last game of the season, right? Sit him. Let Ray Davis go out there and get some pound. Wide receivers, let Khalil Shakir sit, because Khalil Shakir, while really good, he does take a lot of hits. He breaks a lot of tackles, right? So that's part of his game. Like, let's preserve some of that for the postseason. Sit Allen. If the goal is to win the game, you don't do that. See, that's what I mean. We're going to sit our skill position players. Our line is going to play, but that's really it. Elijah Moore and Dawson Knox will play on offense. I like that. You have Elijah Moore out there. You have Keon Coleman out there. I think he'll play. But I'm not sitting. If my starting offensive line plays, Josh plays. It's as simple as that. But I would sit my starting running back, James Cook. He takes his seat. And you let Ray Davis go out there and go wild. Let's see what you got in Ray Davis. Especially if James Cook isn't signed by then. You see what you got in Ray Davis. Why the hell not? But yeah, I would say some of these things are obvious, but they're not all obvious. It's why we do these predictions, right? Because, just to see what we were like. Last year, I predicted the Bills to go 15-2. But I put a caveat in it and said I think their floor was 12-3 or 12-5. I was like, they could lose some extra games here and there, but 12-5 is the lowest I would go. They should have been 14-3, which would be one game away from what I was at. But then we gave away that Patriots game, which made it one game away from my floor. So my ceiling for the Bills is 14-3. My floor is going to be, again, 12-5. So between 12-5 and 14-3, that's where the Bills finish. We'll see what happens. Guys, that is my show. My official prediction, 14-3. Buffalo Bills win the AFC East and get that 1 seed. I don't see the Chiefs and the Ravens being able to repeat what they did last year. I mean, although we were the 2nd seed at 13-4, I think 14-3 gets it done for us this year. I think the Broncos in the AFC North are going to be a problem for the Chiefs. Like the Chiefs are not in an easy division right now. They're not. They got the Broncos on the come up. The Chargers are on the come up. Even the Raiders are on the come up, and the Raiders beat them a couple years ago. So don't be surprised if one of those teams or if multiple of those teams split with the Chiefs this year, because the Broncos defense is sick. And then the Chargers, it's crazy. But guys, that's my show. That's my show. You guys have a good Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Go Bills. Or in the words of Josh Allen, be good, do good. God bless and go Bills. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. As always, I'll see you next week. I am not skipping another week until August, I think it is. But till then, love you guys. Go Bills.